Hello friends. Now we are going to see the second part of first chapter of Civics, 8th standard in CRT. Now we are going to see the key features of Indian Constitution. As we already discussed in the first part, it is very important to maintain the equation among people. Before British, we have seen in our society there were bosses and slaves as well. But during British period, we saw what it is to be like a slave. So obviously, everybody's heart wanted a free society, the real meaning of freedom. So that national movement, that struggle against a master as a slave, resulted in a thought that is for freedom, real freedom. No authoritarian rule will be there. There will be democracy. They got themselves convinced we are going for democracy. Everybody will be equal. Everybody will be treated equal. Thousands of years of differences are there among Indians, but Constitution will envisage a society that is equalitarian. Everybody should be able to participate in the government. We say around a group of 300 people, but what is the exact number, 299 was the exact number. Actually, the Constituent Assembly before partition, that was almost around 389 seats. But as the partition had to happen, the Muslim League, the provinces, whatever we decided to, give it along Pakistan, we left those constituencies. Remaining constituencies, 299 is the exact number. So, as your children, the book keeps saying around 300. Just be exact, no issues. So, it is just 299. So, they met periodically for next 3 years. We saw that in last session. The important challenge in front of the Constituent Assembly members was the the diversity, different languages, different communities, different backgrounds, these different societies, these different economical backgrounds, different races, different everything. Everything was different. Do you know, we got freedom in 1947, but do you know, up to 1970, important papers submitted, thesis papers in political science submitted in Cambridge, more than 400 papers until 1970 were kept submitted on the theories how India is going to be fragmented. Because ever before, the world has seen a single nation that is made of so much of diversity, such a diversity. What language diversity, religious diversity, what not. The world has never seen a single country managing with so much diversity. So until 1970, all the big universities, Oxford and Cambridge universities, the political science researchers, they kept submitting papers on how the India is going to be fragmented. But that was, do you think our forefathers, Nehru, Ambedkar, they did not foresee that problem? Yes, they did. That is why they ensured to give a constitution which is so inclusive of everyone. That is the important challenge they had. The only reason till now India is united is because of our constitution. When you read more about it, you will come to know what a precious constitution we have. We had 3 years to draft that constitution. Our experts took constitutions all over from the world and took all the good points from each and every country, and they made this constitution that we are going to see. What were the important problems that was in front of them? Okay. The important problem in front of them was diversity, we said. So who were the people they need to keep in mind when they were making this constitution? Who will be Indian? Who will become an Indian? Who will remain an Indian? Who will be accepted as an Indian? That is, people who were in India, they need to consider various options. This is an example, this is not in your lesson, this is an example which you need to understand before going into the key features. Who will be the citizen of India? People who were in India, who resided, what was the territory was decided as India, who was inside India, they were the first targets. First, we need to keep in mind. People who are born in India, but currently, that is on the date 1946-47, who were born in India, but not residing in India. Born somewhere else, but currently in India. Neither born in India, nor there in India, but Indian origin. Who are these people? Neither born in India, nor there in India. How can they be Indian? But there was a problem, because have you seen in many other countries, foreign countries, you might have heard, you might have read in newspapers that Prime Minister, so and so became Prime Minister of Fiji, so and so became Prime Minister of Mauritius, so and so became Prime Minister of Trinidad. Who are they? Who are those people? Their name sounds Indian. They have a lot of Indian names. They exactly sound Indian. But how they are becoming Prime Minister of Trinidad, Fiji, Caribbean islands? How are in South Africa? How they are becoming leaders of those countries? If they are becoming leaders, there must be a lot of population, Indian population. How did they went there? How did they go there? They were transported by British during British period to work in those tough estates, tea estates, sugarcane estates, coffee estates. The manual labor was not available there, or it was so hard, they wanted slaves. Few were given salaries. Few were taken as slave laborers. When when British was, you will study in future, there were few communities who lost their jobs because the kingdoms fell. Those people were noted by British as they are warriors and they are capable of doing criminal works. So they became noted communities. Those community people, when they did not oblige to British orders, those were sent to those countries as slaves, as laborers. That is why many island countries in the world have Indian names, Indian citizens with Indian names, leaders with Indian names. So we needed to, when India became free, we needed to consider those people as well if they wanted to come back. So options had to keep open. And who else? Hindus from India, Hindus who wanted to come to India from Pakistan, Muslims from India who wanted to stay. They are our assets. They felt, though a country is carved out of India on religious basis, they felt India is important. their land is important, their motherland is important. They decided we will stay in India, trusting that, keeping a trust on the leaders that there will be a place for Muslims in India, which many Hindus lacked, when they stayed in Pakistan. Or, there were few Hindus, they stayed back in Pakistan. They trusted Pakistan will also have such provisions. You see, how can they not give such provisions? And many Hindus, they came back to India. So Hindus who wanted to come to India from Pakistan, Muslims from India who wanted to stay back in India, Muslims from India who wanted to go to Pakistan for some or other reasons. They felt, see, why take risk? Why trust someone? But they also had their properties in India. So they trusted these properties. What will become to these properties? I have all properties in Indian land, but I need to go to Pakistan. So for them also, we had to give some assurance. Muslims from India who wanted to go to Pakistan. Muslims in Pakistan who wanted to come to India. They were in Pakistan, but in large numbers, they also came to India believing in our Indian constitution. Muslims born in Pakistan who were in India, Muslims who want to go to India, who wanted to go to Pakistan, but loved ones in India. They wanted to go to Pakistan, but all his loved ones, families, they are not willing to leave India. Do you know one great example of a Muslim lady, a Pakistan Muslim lady, stayed in India, stayed back in India, born in Pakistan, stayed back in India when her loved one was in Pakistan, when her loved one, beloved father was in Pakistan, her beloved father was father of Pakistan. Who is that? Muhammad Ali Jinnah is father of Pakistan, as we all know. Jinnah's daughter, Dina Wadia, she decided to stay back in India. So we had to give respect to her decision. We had to give citizenship to such people. Same way, we just talked about Muslims only now. Same way, Anglo-Indians in this state, born here, went back to Britain, born in Britain, came back to India, wanted to stay here, wanted to go there, have property there. We need to make provisions for them. 6, the same way. They are here, their holy places in Pakistan, they stayed there, their property in India, loved ones in India, all confusions. We had to give them time to think over. We gave them time to decide what they want. So this is what they had to keep in mind when they wanted to decide who will be an Indian. So based on that, so what will be given to Indians, that also need to be decided. So when you read any time when you read a constitution, you definitely have to keep this in mind. One great leader of our India, Baba Sahib Dr. Ambedkar, he is known as father of constitution. He believed that his participation in constituent assembly helped the depressed people, oppressed people. They will get some safeguard. He believed in that, and he also made sure those provisions were considered very seriously. Okay, now we are jumping into the key features of Indian Constitution. The first feature we are going to see is federalism. What is a federalism? The federalism means in the government, more than one level of government is there. That is the meaning of federalism. Existence of more than one level of government in the country. That is federalism. in India, there was during Constitution Assembly drafting the Constitution, they decided to have two-tier government. That is, state level and central level, two tiers of government. See, this is the diversity of India. Now, when Constitution was formed, there was a central government, and here is the state government. That is the balance of power. This is called federation. More than one level of government in the country is federation. And in 1992, it is called 73rd Amendment. Amendment is the changes that we make in Constitution is called amendment. Okay. So far, we have made more than 100 amendments, 110 amendments. Right now, this what we are looking into is the third. They added a third tier to the government. What is the third tier? Panchayat Raj is the third tier government. Village level, block level, district level, Panchayat Raj is the government. Third tier of the government. There is one union government. Union government sits in Delhi. Sitting in Delhi, can it take care of problem in Kanyakumari? Can it every time? Kanyakumari, when there is a decision to be taken, the file will be put up and it will be sent in courier or mail to Delhi, and Delhi will make a signature on that, and it will come back to Kanyakumari. Even though they say go ahead in phone, can they go ahead? Everything need to be approved with a signature. So why should Kanyakumari administration has to go to Delhi? Why should Manipal, any change in Manipal city that needs an approval from Delhi? It requires. Delhi is the ultimate power. Central government is the ultimate power. But why it has to go through such a long distance? So there is a central strong union government, and there are state governments. The small territories made all over India, they are state governments. And think over it again. If a chair is to be purchased for a local village in Kanyakumari, a letter has to be sent to Chennai. Is that correct? Why not a village administration is to be formed for such small things? If there is a sweeper change, if there is a cleaning person is there in Panchayat who sweeps the streets all over, or there is a street light needs to be changed, why that file has to reach to Chennai to change? So if a local administration, a Panchayat level, that village level administration is present, that is enough. Yearly once that village administration will, yearly once or monthly once or periodically, they can get approval from the state government. State government will keep submitting its expenditures and other things to central government. Central government will have some funds by some means. State government will have some funds from some means. The Panchayat will get the funds from some means. How Panchayat will get funds? By collecting house taxes of that village. If any small market, street market is placed over that village, that tax, all those things will be given, fees, all those things will be given to the Panchayat level. See, Panchayat, local government has two levels, municipality and Panchayat. This is for city and this is for village administration. Okay. So this is what federalism is. Okay. I expect you to read what is in the book, because reading the book will give you better understanding to answer what is asked in the examinations. Under federalism, the states are not merely agents of the federal government, but draw their authority from the constitution as well, because constitution itself says, see, constitution doesn't simply say all state governments follow central's idea. No, that also describes center, you do this, state, you do this. When there is and both of you have to do these works, and when you have a problem, state government, you have a procedure to approach center and get clarification. Like that, it clearly states. That is what that says. It has central list, state list, and concurrent list. That is, central list is all the works and duties that is to be done by the central government. State list is of state. Concurrent is both of them. What is the responsibility of both state and central, and how they share those responsibilities. That is what a federal system is. And parliamentary form of government. We saw three tier of government, right? And each tier will be, people who will sit in those tiers, people who will sit in those government seats, they will be elected by people. That is what parliamentary form of government says. You see, here, I said Indian constitution got inspiration from many constitutions of the other countries in the world, and this is an example. This is the list of it, and what we are concerned today. Only 3 things are there. This is parliamentary form of government has been taken from British constitution. This federal system with strong central authority has been taken from Canadian constitution. So first federal system inspired by Canadian constitution. Now we are going to see parliamentary form of government that was inspired by British constitution. Parliamentary form of government, we saw whoever is sitting in the government will be elected by the people. That is what parliamentary form of government is. Election. In Indian constitution has given as, or has guaranteed as, universal adult suffrage for all citizens. This is not an easy thing. When we see something is available to us readily, we take that for granted. You know what is universal adult suffrage? It has a great meaning. Universal means everybody will participate. Adult, that is, whoever is adult, all of them will participate. Suffrage, that is the simple meaning. Whoever is an adult, all of them will vote. That is the meaning of universal adult suffrage. This we did not get very easily. We in 1920, when the provincial elections were there, we will read it later. All over India, election was conducted by British government for the provincial governments. Then itself we had voting right for women. In 1919 elections itself we had voting right for women, whereas in US women got voting right only after 1920. The migrants from China who got settled in US for a long time, they got voting right only in 1945. The Native Americans, Red Indians as we call them, they got voting rights in America only in 1965. But in India, we got this universal adult suffrage in 1950. So this is a great thing what we have. When they were making constitution, this Constituent Assembly felt that freedom struggle had prepared masses for universal adult suffrage, and that this would help encourage a democratic mindset and break the clutches of traditional caste, class and gender hierarchies. That everything needs to be broken. So we are giving this universal adult suffrage. Educated, uneducated, doesn't matter. We have some great leaders who never got even school education. So every citizen of this country, this is also an important point, because while voting you give universal adult suffrage, but what if the election, whoever is contesting in election is only who pay tax? That means who is a rich man only will get to stand in election, which is not fair, right? So irrespective of social background, one can contest in election. And also until 1965 in USA, until 1965, people got voting rights only if they had paid poll tax. Either they have to pay income tax or property tax or something. If nothing they have paid, at least they should pay poll tax. If they had paid no tax, no voting rights until 1965. Right? Can you believe that? But in India, we had everybody universal adult suffrage from 1950. Isn't that great? Next is separation of powers. Right? This is very, very important because if power is in single place, that can be easily misused. So the constitution forefathers has decided, they had decided to separate the powers. There were three organs of government. One is legislature, the other one is executive, and the other one is judiciary. So legislature, executive, and judiciary. Legislature, they are elected representatives sitting in parliament and state legislature houses. Executive is small group of people who are responsible for implementing laws and running the government. Cabinet to IAS, IPS and all those officials. They are executives. And judiciary is, as you know, it is court. That we will see in unit 3 in detail. Court. So when one legislature is overdoing, judiciary will control. When executive is overdoing, legislature will control. When judiciary is overdoing, legislature will control again. So there is a equal balance among these. Power has been distributed among these three organs of government. So three organs of governments are legislature, executive and judiciary. This is in order to prevent the misuse of power by any one branch of government. Constitution says that each of these organs should exercise different powers. Through this, each organ acts as check on the other organs of government, and this ensures the balance of power between all three. In this chapter, or even in Constitution, when it says state means country. Okay, not the country, the government or whoever is running the government. Government may change, right? One party to another, that can change. But state, that will always take responsibility. Who did this? That party government did it. This party government did this. No, not like that. State did this. It was that this party government or that party government, doesn't matter. State means it is state, regardless whoever is in the ruling seat. The state, on the other hand, refers to political institution that represents a sovereign people who occupy a different territory. We can thus speak of the Indian state, the Nepali state, Sri Lankan state, like that. Okay. Okay. This we will, what we are going to see about states right now in next one. Fundamental rights. This is where we are going to mention the state. Here state means not state government. It is the Indian government, that a form of Indian government, right? Fundamental rights. Fundamental right is often referred as the conscience of Indian Constitution. What is a conscience? Can you see it? But no, we cannot see it. But the conscience is basically required when you expect someone to be a human, right? This fundamental rights provision has been taken from United States of America's Constitution. We know, as a result of colonial rule, we know how it used to be oppressed. We have envisaged for a human to have a decent, respectful life. There are few things that are basic requirements. So, the constitutional forefathers, they ensured every citizen, Indian citizen, regardless of whoever it is, innocent citizen, criminal citizen, poor citizen, rich citizen, male citizen, female citizen, even for a child, even for an old man, even for a leader, for anybody, there are few things that are promised. To live with dignity. That is what fundamental rights promises to give us. Who may violate someone's dignity? Who may violate a person's dignity? A fellow human can violate one person's dignity by ill-treating them. Government can also violate a person's dignity by ill-treating them or not giving them sufficient chance to live with the dignity. Okay. So, if I'm living in a remote village in Rajasthan and I'm not getting water, whose responsibility is that? I need to travel for 10 miles to get water means, how will I work for my livelihood? How will I earn my food if I am going behind water? So, to earn water, I am spending so much time, and I may have to degrade myself for to do something degrading to earn my food, like begging. So this is state's responsibility. You know what is the state? Not Rajasthan state. It is Indian state. It is state's responsibility to take care of that basic requirement of citizen. That is why if there is no water, people are protesting. When you go in car, when some people are protesting with all those pots, you might have unknowingly commented, what will government do if there is no water? Where government will go for water? Government has to arrange for water somehow. This is the basic expectation. So, who can violate the dignity of a person? A fellow person may violate the dignity, or the government itself may violate the person's dignity. So, fundamental rights is to ensure. Fundamental rights therefore protect citizen against the arbitrary, I'll tell you what is arbitrary is, arbitrary and absolute exercise of power by the state. The Constitution thus guarantees the right of individuals against state as well as against other individuals. This is what I said, state. That is right of individuals against state as well as other individual. What is an arbitrary? Everything written in strict format or everything is understood or said in a strict format is called absolute power. Okay, this is absolute. There is no question. This is absolute. When it is arbitrary power, what is that? The arbitrary power is, I have a standard for you and some other standard for person next to you. I'm having a standard for poor Indian and totally opposite stand for rich Indian. That is called arbitrary power. So no arbitrary power. It's everything, for everybody it is the same. So even if it is an arbitrary power exercised or absolute power exercised, nothing can be exercised against violating any individual's fundamental right. that is what this section of constitution guarantees. Moreover, there are many minorities. As we already saw, if majority takes decision, if majority decides this is enough, whatever majorities practices are enough, minorities have to leave their practices, that will be unfair. So to protect the minority interest is also part of constitution's job. So that is also given in the fundamental right. The constitution therefore also guarantees right of minorities against majority. As Dr. Ambedkar has said about these fundamental rights, their object is twofold. Ambedkar himself has said fundamental rights object is twofold. First objective is every citizen must be in a position to claim those rights. You have all right, okay, but what if you are in a position unable to claim those rights? You are in a position in which you are unable to claim the rights. You have all fundamental rights. Okay, you have right to speak, but your mouth will be tied with some, shut with some plaster. You have right to move, but your hands and legs will be tied. So that is what he means. The first objective is citizen must be in a position to claim those rights. Okay, and secondly, these rights must be binding upon every authority that has got the power to make laws. It seems a big statement, right? This is a big sentence. These rights must be binding upon every authority that has got the power to make laws. What does it mean? Very simple. The sentence is long, but meaning is very simple. Whenever government makes a rule, whenever government makes a law, that should not violate these fundamental rights given by Constitution. That is simple, right? So every person must be in a position to claim those fundamental rights. Number one. Number two, any lawmaking authority should keep this in mind. Keep fundamental rights in mind when they are making the law. They should not violate fundamental rights of Constitution when they are making any law. So that is what Ambedkar says. Fundamental rights object is twofold. So in addition to fundamental rights, there is DPSP, that is Directive Principles of State Policy. This is what state, fundamental rights when they are violated, definitely they can be asked, demanded, that we will see what is that. But when directive principles is to improve a citizen's life, government is having these things in mind. That will keep in mind, but that can be violated when they are making new rules and new laws. Everybody will try to achieve 100 marks, but definitely what is the pass mark? 40. So fundamental 100% is target, 40 is must. Like that, DPSB is the target of the government. If all DPSBs are possible, all directive principles of state policies given in the constitutions are possible, we will be a utopian country where everything is, like heaven. But what is minimum guarantee? Fundamental right. That is 40 marks. So 40 marks is must, 100 marks is the target. Like that, fundamental right is must, DPSB is the target, like that. Now we will see what are the fundamental rights given. Right to equality. Article 14 to 18 are right to equality. All persons are equal before law. This means all persons shall be equally protected by the law of country. It also states that no citizen can be discriminated against on the basis of their, we saw this already, religion, caste or sex, and also place of birth we saw. So on the basis of their religion, caste or sex. Every person has access to all public places including playgrounds, hotels, shops, etc. If it is a public place, everybody can go. If it is a private property, they have right to keep it shut, putting a gate or putting a wall or whatever it is. But when it is a state's property, when it is decided to given for public, it is a public property. They cannot open a mall saying the mall is a private property, but they decided to give it for public usage. They cannot restrict this religion cannot come inside, this gender cannot come inside, this caste cannot come inside. Like that, if they cannot discriminate, if they discriminate like that, it is an offense. Religious places, they can do it because it is their belief, it is their personal belief. We need to respect that. But for public entrance, for any other public use like malls and markets, you cannot discriminate that, even if it is a private property. But there are exceptions to this. Yes, that you will read about later in this book. The practice of untouchability has also been abolished. What is this exceptions? Can you imagine one example that you will read in this book later? But we can have an imagination. We have right to movement. An Indian citizen can move anywhere in India, right? Can we move into, any government office is a public place, right? So a military training place is a public place, isn't it? So can someone enter into the military premises or any protected premises by military? No, we cannot do that, right? So there are some restrictions like that. And I recommend this Article 15 movie that speaks about equality. It's a very, very good movie. Article 15 that speaks about the equality. That is one of the equality insisting fundamental right. Based on that article, all question or the situation questions the Article 15 and the Article 15 is underlined via that movie. So I recommend you to see that movie. Right to freedom. Next is right to freedom. This includes right to freedom of speech, expression, form association, right to move freely and reside in any part of country, and right to practice any profession, occupation or business. This is Article 19 to 22. This is right to freedom. In this only this right to education also comes, 21A. Okay, so this is right to freedom. Articles are 19 to 22. Right against exploitation. What is right against exploitation? Human trafficking. What is human trafficking? Sales of humans, abducting humans and selling them, or selling human is definitely a crime. You might have heard a lot of industrial places where parents get of some 15,000, 20,000, something like that, and leave their children to work in those industries because of their poverty. It is considered as sales of the children. Women and children are main targets for this human trafficking. Forced labor. Yes, this is what I said. They get some money and leave their children to work for 1 year, for 2 years or some time period. Forced labor, and it's called bonded labor. These both are crime. And the 24 says about child labor. Article 24 says about child labor. Who is a child? Any person who is below the age of 14 is a child, as we have defined in the Constitution. Then right to freedom of religion. Article 25 and 28. 25 to 28 are freedom of religion. Every person has the right to practice, profess and propagate the religion of their choice. This is Article 25 to 28, there is freedom of religion. It is fundamental right. Nobody can touch it. Cultural and educational right. The Constitution states that all minorities, religious minorities, linguistic minorities, they can set up their own educational institutions in order to preserve and develop their own culture. In Tamil Nadu, other linguists, people who speak other languages, that is Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, all those people are linguistic minorities. So they can start their own educational institutions. This is what Constitution has given as a right, fundamental right. Then when all this Article 32 is right to constitutional remedies. What is a remedy? It is when something is wrong, to make it right, what needs to be done is remedy. Okay. So constitutional remedy is Article 32 that allows all citizens to move to court if they believe if any of their fundamental rights have been violated by the state, against the government or even against individual. If they are say freedom of movement is freedom, it's a fundamental right, and one person is locked inside without his consensus. So that person or any person related or whose son, unrelated person also can give complaint to law enforcing officers, that is police department, to release that person from illegal confinement. Okay, they have to do that. If it is not done, when a person will go to court, the police has not done their duty to release that person from illegal confinement, then he will go to court, because I've given the complaint to police and they have not acted upon it, or the police themselves have confined, taken a custody of someone and not produced in court. It means they will say it is illegal confinement, and the police is answerable to the court. That is, indirectly, it is state functionary, police, any government office or whatever is, getting orders from the government. It is government. It is answerable to the court. So that is what, when constitutional right is, fundamental right is violated, the citizen can approach court for the remedy. So the court is the guardian of fundamental right. So because of this Article 32, court is called as, only Supreme Court and High Court can admit this fundamental right remedies. Okay, remedies cases. Commonly we could have heard a term called writ petition. Writ is admitted only in High Court and Supreme Court. That is to safeguard any fundamental right. Okay, next we are seeing the key features, right? So far we have seen federalism, parliamentary form of government, and separation of powers and fundamental rights. Finally, we are going to see secularism. The secularism, the first such model became famous after French Revolution in France, and we have taken that only. A secular state is one in which the state does not officially promote any one religion as the state religion. This is called secularism. They have the fundamental rights list. See how many are they? Right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. There are 6. Fingers are 5. Powerful. Fundamental rights are 1 more than that. That is 6. Remember it. Equality, freedom, exploitation, freedom of religion, cultural cultural and educational protection, and constitutional remedies. Okay. Next is secularism. Secularism is a secular state is one in which the state does not officially promote, endorse any one religion as their state religion. There are a lot of religions, a lot of states in the world. Most of them, they promote a single religion, but unlike them, India is different. We do not promote any single religion as our state religion, because this is a place for everybody. Because you now understand the ways in which the country's history often determines the kind of constitution that the country adopt for itself, right? So why did we adopt such a constitution? We have such history, we have such examples. The different features of Indian constitution are outlined above. They involve complicated ideas, each of them, and I have tried to touch in each one of them. And these are book back exercises. This is a glossary. We saw what is arbitrary, we saw what is ideal, Indian national movement, polity, sovereign. Sovereign is no one is above you. I am independent. I have my own dignity, and my dignity is above everything. Myself and my dignity is above everything. No one is above that. That is why ours is a sovereign country. When you could have seen when our leaders meet, our leaders are from our representatives, president or prime minister, meet any other country's president or prime minister, the flags are set in the table in such a way that both are in equal heights. Even in Olympics, all the flags fly on the same level. No flag will fly inferior. And if a flag flies inferior, it means it is not sovereign country. We are sovereign country. This is human trafficking, tyranny. So I suppose we are done with this subject. The main purpose of this session is to make you understand the logic behind the polity lesson, and we will continue doing that. Thank you.